Hello there, my dearest friends, and presumably by this stage, some very bitter enemies. My name is Trek Culture's Adam Clery here, back once again for another episode of Star Trek Lower Decks, Ups and Downs. Before we begin, a bit of news, because we are incredibly short-staffed here at What Culture Towers today, or anyway, the work-from-home offices that now double as What Culture Towers, and thus we are operating on a skeleton crew, and I cannot give our god editor, Chris Thompson, a full ups and downs file for him to work his magic on. So instead, to keep things time and cost effective, I have enlisted the help of Trek Curious, let's just call her Ash Millman, who just so happened to be the only person on the entire team today who's actually seen all the episodes of Lower Decks. Now, Ash, before we start, I've got to ask, you managed to keep yourself off the channel trailer and thus far off any Star Trek assignments, and yet you've seen all Lower Decks. How have you pulled this one off?
I just like a goofy cartoon. I'm a big fan of a goofy cartoon, so Lower Decks appealed to my sensibilities. It's such easy watching. They can just stick on whilst you're doing something, or watch intrepidly as well. It has both options. So I'm a big fan of it. I like it as something just to get through. And very accessible for someone who doesn't have the big back catalogue of Star Trek stuff to get into. I still find it very enjoyable because I'm like, Star Trek. I know that they're talking about Star Trek stuff, like when you go, Spock. Excellent. But no, I'm playing that down. It's very good. And I enjoy it.
You're also playing down your own Trekness, because you know a little bit more than just yes, the man with the pointy face. I recognize him. He's fairly well equipped. You've seen some of the films, you've seen some of the TV shows and stuff, right?
I do, but it's just coming to a Star Trek channel. I don't want to come here and be like, hey, I know everything about Star Trek, Adam Clery, test me. But no, I like the films. I'm a big fan of the films. I like First Contact. It's all good. It's all good for me.
Look, everybody who's anybody knows that the reason you said intrepidly was a direct little Easter egg to how much you should have played a younger Catherine Janeway on Voyager. But we'll get into the actual meat and bones of this Star Trek Lower Decks episode 4. Now, the initial first episode started, and the entire premise was, here we go, here is an animated show that is Star Trek. It's an animated comedy set in the Star Trek universe. So every single week when I do these videos, I look at A, how Star Trek was it, and B, how funny was it. But before we do any of that, we'll just get into the plot if you haven't seen it yet. The Cerritos is on a mission, a joint mission with another Starfleet ship to go and tow a generational ship from one undescribed portion of the galaxy to another. And on that generational ship is this amazing terraforming device, this goo almost, which turns inorganic matter into organic matter, thus being able to turn a dead planet into a live one, and then we're going to go there, and then we're going to live there, etc., etc. But now everyone's dead, and they're all beef jerky inside these pods, and they're taking it for scientific reasons, and that is pretty much where we pick up the episode. We're introduced to the other crew on I'm going to remember this now. I am going to remember this. The USS Merced. It's the USS Merced because, it's another joke inside the whole California class thing, whereby everything to do with the Cerritos is based on the state of California. And indeed, Merced, I think, any Californians will have to correct me on this if I'm wrong, is another town in California. So that kind of all plays into that. Various mishaps go on. The mission appears to be going relatively okay, without a hitch, you might say, for long parts, and then there is a rather major hitch, and things start turning quite alive and tentacly, and that's where we go from there. So the first thing, the best benefit of having you on this as a fan of goofy cartoons is I want to talk about 4 episodes in now. Is it still funny? Because I thought episode 1 was hilarious, 2 and 3 were also very funny with joke rates that hit time and time and time again. I thought episode 4 was the least funny one we've had so far. What did you make of it?
I don't think it was funny, I think that it relies on its own tone now. I think it's quite confident in what it is and what it has to offer, that it doesn't need to go, whoa, here's a joke, have a laugh. I think it's very much it knows what it's saying and what its tone is, and it's kind of playing more with character and developing the people that they've introduced to us in this one. This one feels very much more like we're learning about the inner, more emotional sides of these people, rather than, outright, here you go, here's some funny stuff. Here's the funny stuff for the people on our funny show. It was really nice seeing the play between those guys a little bit more, I thought.
I actually quite agree with you there. I thought this was the most heartwarming. The show's been very, wry-eyed and just sort of tongue-in-cheek the whole way through. And I thought it was actually quite a heartwarming episode rather than a funny one. They've not picked up the whole Mariner is the captain's daughter thing since episode 1, and now here we are. They're having a lovely mother-daughter bonding time, and I have to say,
yeah, it's so nice.
I do think probably the funniest thing in the entire episode was just how well it played off the whole parent trying to tell a child how to do a thing that the child knows how to do better than the parent. Now, I've never had a mother-daughter bond personally. That's out of my wheelhouse. But you have a mother-daughter bond. Is this what it's like?
I feel like they have a very specific relationship, but also like it very much plays on. I think it's very much the whole parent thing of being like, oh, I know what I'm doing. Let me do what I'm doing. And them obviously having loads of experience, also know what they're doing, trying to tell you, and you just butt heads. Especially with my mom and most people who have like the mother-daughter bond, you're so similar and get on such a level that you do each other's head in because you know what the other person is like. And seeing that on screen is always really good. Like when you have it in films and stuff and they play on that, it's usually like made very sickeningly sweet, whereas I feel like these pairs' relationship is a lot more real and argumentative and still has its funny moments and its moments where they don't get on, but still digs into like the emotional push that brings them together as well, and why they're interested in the same career and why they're on this ship together doing this thing, and kind of bringing it back to like obviously the Admiral being a dad and the captain being a mom, and this whole family that is so ingrained in Starfleet and all that sort of thing as well. I just think, it's nice. Yeah. They're similar. They're obviously very similar, and it's nice seeing them butt heads about it.
I, after watching this episode, immediately text my own mother because the amount of times I do the whole sass. Oh, really? Is that how I do that? Is that how I do that? Simple thing. Is it the amount of times I get like that with her? I have just had to text her, just say, hey, hope you're having a nice day, because I've just seen a Star Trek episode that was entirely our dynamic. So, going to still try and do an ups and downs format on this. I actually think this was probably the least funny episode they've done, but I'm probably still going to give it an up because it didn't just replace the funny with like a big empty vacuum, load of jokes dying on their ass. It replaced it with like quite a nice character story instead. And I did still laugh. That Sensors bit at the end had me in stitches quite a while.
Sensors was good. I enjoyed that. I very much enjoyed. I liked seeing. I thought a big funny part for me was them going on about the acoustic guitar session as well. That was a big laugh. I was like, I get that. I get it. Got the joke, got that one. But Sensors was good, definitely. I think it's still, again, it knows its tone. It knows where it can really dig into the moments and go, oh, here's a funny little tidbit. If you think about it, oh my God, it's so relatable. Like, there's too much relatable content for like a spaceship in space. Like, that's what it feels like. It's too real for something that is an unreal situation.
Yeah, if there's anything you can relate to, quite like a mother-daughter relationship, it's probably a tedious man telling you about his gap year in Barcelona. But anyway, we'll move on to that. That gets up, the humor and everything gets up, the tone gets up this week. And we'll move on to just how quite Star Trek-y it was, because the whole premise of this, it's a Star Trek animated comedy, so it's always going to be animated. We can't give it points for that, but it might not always be funny, and it might not always feel very Star Trek. And one of the major complaints from certain sections of Star Trek fans over both Discovery and Picard was it didn't feel like Star Trek, and Lower Decks seems to be going out of its way to make it feel like TNG era Star Trek. Now, I'm not going to ask you to do the heavy lifting in terms of the lore here, because I know that is not your wheelhouse, but I can say, as a Star Trek adventure goes, this one wasn't as heavy on the Easter eggs. Like the last 3 weeks have been like reference. And while, of course, there was absolutely loads of those in here, wasn't anywhere near as many as we've had in general recently. But I thought overall the episode was like the most classic Star Trek adventure we've had. Like last week ran it pretty close, having to fight the alien in the pit. But this week, two ships trying to tow this thing, and there's a scientific reason for doing it, and it goes wrong, and they have to use science to solve it. That felt like really Star Trek to me.
Like from the films that I've seen and kind of the structure of them, that one felt very much like, oh, okay, here's like a central like crew problem, and then, oh my God, there's a big actual terraforming issue, like a science problem, and then here's how they come together to save the day at the end of it. Like it felt very neatly encapsulated by that kind of formula that goes through Star Trek, and obviously a crew that you care about, doing things that you care about, but also dealing with an outside force that you're like, oh, that's bad and scary. So for someone who obviously isn't entrenched in Star Trek quite as much as you are, it felt very I know you are. You're Mr. Star Trek, but for me, it felt very much like. It felt like new and old coming together with the generational ship and stuff as well. Like there was vibes in there that felt like classic sci-fi that I know Star Trek has influenced so much of. It felt like it had the new and old coming together, especially mother and daughter coming together, having the different parts of the ship and going into that. And the holodeck joke as well.
Every video I've ever done, I've said this, they need to address that more in Star Trek, that all people would use that for in real life is just them even having to filter out that bit. I had to clean the out of the filters on the holodeck.
Oh, I popped so big.
It's just what everybody would do. Like, look, there's still loads of like classic Star Trek references in this. The Easter eggs are really good. Obviously, the terraforming thing's a great throwback to Wrath of Khan. The fact that your man's trying to ascend and become a being of pure light, like even Tendi herself references all the various Star Trek tropes of this. There's parts of Vija in it, there's parts of Q in it. So it still felt really Star Trek to me. So unless you're going to disagree with me wholeheartedly, I'm going to give that an up as well.
I feel like it's kind of hard for a show about Star Trek Lower Decks to not feel very Star Trek-y personally, especially like you say that it's been Easter egg heavy. I don't think I've ever not understood anything, like anything's gone over my head. I've either been aware an Easter egg's going on or got the Easter egg is like the two parts of it, or you can see like an ongoing reference like the California class stuff. But yeah, I think this one again, it knows its tone, it knows it's Star Trek. It's done a really great formula that matches the arcs of Star Trek as it has been. I'm just backing up Europe here. I'm not going to be like, no, it's impossible.
I will say the best Easter egg in the whole thing is the fact that everybody folded cards, because every time they played cards on The Next Generation, I can only remember everybody folding, or I think right the bluff in them. But we'll move on. My major complaint so far about previous episodes has been that it's not really focused on the four of them. Like, it already feels like there's a lower decks to lower decks, and the Boimler and Mariner, they're the central focus, and then Rutherford and Tendi are kind of not really doing a whole lot. And while Rutherford's had an episode for himself where he transferred between all the different sections, this kind of felt like we were learning a lot about Tendi this time. Everybody seems to like her.
I like Tendi. She's achieved that goal on me. I like Tendi. I think she's wonderful. I really like her as kind of a lesser character in the series. I think she functions really well because she is kind of the one note of, oh, I'm so excited. Oh, I need to be liked. Oh, I need all of this. And seeing that come out in a situation where it can't obviously be addressed properly and that she is unliked sort of thing. I thought that was really nice, and to have that focus on her and see that come out of her. But in saying that she's a lesser character and that is her trait, I want to see more from her now. Now that we've had that moment where she's had a bit more time to shine, I want to see her kind of develop a bit further and see what else she has to offer other than being the excitable one that needs to be liked. I want to see her like do something massive, you know what I mean? Mariner has all of the stage, all of the episodes. Like, she's incredible and she's great, but I think I've seen enough of her now if this is supposed to be a 4-person lead, personally.
See, this is the thing. I'm obviously like, last week I was like, more Tendi. I want more Tendi, please. And this week they've given me a lot more Tendi. But if I'm totally honest, like, I knew she was keen and eager to be liked. And I kind of knew all of this already. And they introduced this sort of like new relationship with this random member of the crew. And obviously he's just exploded into a thing of light.
Yeah.
So I don't really know if I know that much more about the character.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Like,
definitely got more screen time, sure. But I felt I learned a lot about Rutherford during that episode. We tried his hand at everything. We learned these different skills, different this, different that. And ultimately, he needs to be doing that very small, technical, finicky engineering job. Whereas, like, Tendi, they told us already that she's very keen and very eager and very, oh my God, everything's amazing. So, I don't know. I think I might be tempted to still give this a down. Like, more screen time for her, yes. But I don't think they developed the character at all for me.
I don't think so either. I think if you watch the first episode, like next to this one, you wouldn't learn anything new. I feel like we're 4 episodes in and she's the same person. And I really like her and I like what she has to offer and I'm interested to see where it goes. But at this point, that hasn't happened yet. And everything else is progressing, but Tendi is stuck in her position. And that's fine. That's nice to have the excitable person, but it's too one-dimensional now.
Yeah, like, I know I said I just wanted more Tendi, and I got a lot more Tendi this week, but I'm still going to give that a down. I think it feels harsh. It feels harsh for me to say, I want this, and then the show goes, all right,
I've given it, I've got it.
And I look at it and go, no, not like this. I wanted it slightly better. But it is harsh, but I am going to give it a down anyway. Where do you feel we are in terms of an overarching story at the minute? Like, you've seen all 4 episodes. It hasn't followed the same sort of like a modern TV trope is to have one story stretched out so that it can be binged and whatnot. But with this being weekly and episodic, it kind of feels like it's mishap of the week as it goes. Do you think they need to have an overarching storyline, or are you happy with how it is?
I think the overarching storyline currently is just Mariner and Mom. Like that's the thing. Even though it's not played into, like episodes 2 and 3 didn't look at it at all. I think that's kind of what they're trying to do is kind of dig into family stuff and how that happens with this big ship and how that functions. And I don't think that's strong enough to be a whole season. I think it's interesting and I think it's really great how they're doing it, but I want to see how the other characters tie into it as well, rather than just being person who spies on her, person who works with her, person who is not very similar in personality because she likes everything and is excited rather than being cool and badass. And that's the closest we've got, which is good, and maybe they'll surprise me with that, but it's very drop in, drop out, and that's good and that works and that's really nice. And what you want with these sort of things, it's very like Rick and Morty in that sense, you know what I mean? Like it's drop in, drop out scenario, get the vibe, have a nice time, go out again, come in wherever you like, and that's fine. But it being Star Trek and Star Trek being such like a broad spanning piece of lore and having all these different intertwining things that they can hark back on, I would like this to have its own big narrative that can be pulled into other things as well and go, oh, that's very Lower Decks-esque, you know what I mean? Like that, I would like that.
I see this thing. I actually think this is one of the major positives about the show at the minute. If they're not going to do one big storyline, and you've got like the Mariner mother-daughter thing, that's interesting. The weird sexual tension between Mariner and Ransom, that's interesting. Boimler's like desperation to get a promotion, that's interesting. I think they've got enough sort of part-time narrative threads that you can keep dipping in and out of. Like I don't expect them to address the mother-daughter thing for a couple of weeks now. Like that's gone for a while. I actually think they've done a really good job in 4 episodes of just going, okay, here are some connecting threads that will be in every episode, but not every episode at the same time. Like they'll be present, but not completely present. And we're just going to do little adventures. Because this was one of the things people didn't like about Picard and Discovery. There was one storyline which had like other little subplots to it. So I am going to give an overall 4-episode encompassing up to this, because I think now we finally get the flavor of it. We now finally get just how it feels and the vibe. And I think they've done a really good job of that.
I think they have. I think they've done a good job, but I'm going to have to disagree in that I think the strongest television shows know how to do drop in, drop out, but also have an overarching narrative that committed fans get the pleasure of at the end of it, like can see what's happened. And I think missing out on that, we won't know until the end. I could be talking out my bot because we won't know till the end. But at the moment, like I don't feel the benefit of watching for 4 episodes. Oh, I know a bit more than someone who's just dropped in, dropped out.
But would you say any of those TV shows are fun 20-minute animations?
Hold on, I'm gonna have to like reach into my mind and see if I can find anything. I don't think anything is quite the way the Star Trek is, as in this Lower Decks thing. So maybe not. I think there is other examples out there, but they're probably longer. So maybe you've got me there. I
don't think Lower Decks is like any of the really good TV shows that I love to watch, but I think it is a lot like the kinds of TV shows it's trying to ape. Like you mentioned Rick and Morty, like Mike McMahon was involved in that. So I think they've just done I think genuinely we can kind of get there. We can call it down the line now. They have made a really good Star Trek animated comedy. 4 episodes in, it's not some big universe spanning, if they don't complete this mission, then their timeline's going to change, etc. It's just, you know what, I'm going to flick this on for 20 minutes, as you have been doing, and have a really fun drop-in, drop-out time. So it's getting it up from me. If you want to give it a down, you get your own Star Trek show.
No, I'm not giving it a down. I'm just giving it an alternate point of view where I would like an overarching narrative, but not something that drives the whole TV show.
Well, speaking of an alternate point of view, I'd be very keen to hear all of yours down in the comments. No, really, I would. It was my New Year's resolution. So let us know down there. And of course, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Ash, you have been a delight and you've bailed me out of a hole. So where can people get you on Twitter?
Oh, they can find me at Ash Millman on Twitter. I was trying to remember my own name there. Who am I? At Ash Millman, please.
You get me at Adam Clery, Clery. And a huge thank you to every single one of you, because Trek Culture has literally today, surpassed 50,000 subscribers.
That's so cool.
Absolutely no mean feat, that. So thank you very much, everybody subscribed, everybody shared, everybody's watched the video, or left a comment or anything. We owe you all very dearly. Here is to another 50,000, and then
Yay!
beyond, or whatever. I don't know.
Thank you. And beyond. Yeah, that's the right
Star
one.
Trek. Why not? Yes, so thank you very much for watching. This was Star Trek episode Lower Decks, Ups and Downs. I called it Lower Downs.
You did.
Like-
You did.
Sounds
Ridiculous.
rude. Anyway, that's slightly reformatted this week owing to a skeleton crew, but we'll be back next week, and I will see you soon.
Technically, we're the lower decks of this Ups and Downs episode, I think, having to come together to take on. But now I'm going to actually finish because you've said goodbye. So thank you, everyone. Goodbye.